Welcome back to Pace Immigration, paceimmigration.com, talking with immigration lawyer Vince Lalonde. Vince, good to see you.
You too, Sean. How's it going?
Great. Talking about passports today.
We are.
And passport indexes, because I've noticed that when you look online long enough at immigration stuff like we do, you see these things called passport indexes, and they're in various websites and magazines and things. But you've come up with a comprehensive one that maybe is better than all the ones that are out there. But first, before we jump into why yours is so good, let's talk about what a passport index is in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's really important. A lot of people, you're seeing this more and more online. A lot of countries like to brag about how good their passport is, so it comes up in the news a lot. But what is a passport index? Really, a passport index is just a ranking or a measurement of how good your passport is as a travel document. Okay, so we're not talking about how good your citizenship is. Okay, there might be some Americans out there watching this and they say, USA is number one. It should be USA. The American passport is the best. Okay, we're not talking about the best country in the world to live in. Okay, We're just talking about the usefulness of this little book that you get from the government, this little booklet, how useful that thing is as a tool for traveling around the world. That's all we're really doing. We're talking about the passport, and then we're ranking all the passports in the world in comparison to each other.
Right.
That's really what a passport index is. So there are a number of passport indexes out there, as you mentioned. Most of them, what they're doing is they use a really simple formula to determine how good your passport is. They look at all the countries that your passport allows you to travel to visa-free, and they give you 1 point they give your passport, 1 point for each country that you can go to visa-free. Okay, so you get 1 point for visa-free travel to the US. You get 1 point for visa-free travel to Palau, 1 point for visa-free travel to China, 1 point for visa-free travel to Timor-Leste. Doesn't matter what country it is, they give you 1 point for each visa-free destination that your passport allows you to travel to, and they just add those points up, and whoever has the most points at the end of the day wins. Their passport's number one on most of the indices out there. So I think in my opinion, it's a good idea to look at visa-free travel, because visa-free travel is huge. Like, we kind of take that for granted a little bit as Canadians, because we do have a good passport. And it is really nice to be able to go to the US or Japan or the EU without needing to apply for a visa, because really, like, applying for a visa can be a nightmare. And I know, because that's what I do for a living. I help people apply for visas. That's my job. All day I'm helping people apply for visas. And I know how difficult it can be, and how time consuming it can be, and how expensive it can be. There can be delays. Your application can be refused. Okay, so having that ability to just pick up your passport and go travel to someplace without requiring a visa is huge. Okay, so I think the idea of looking at visa-free travel to determine the value of a passport is a good idea. I think that the issue that PACE has, or the issue that PACE has identified with some of these other passport indices out there, is the way they calculate your points. Okay, like I said, they just give 1 point for visa-free travel to every country. It doesn't matter if it's the US or Palau or China or Madagascar, whatever. It's 1 point. But in my estimation, if you asked somebody in pretty much any country around the world, if you asked somebody in Pakistan or Nigeria or Cambodia, and said, would you rather have visa-free travel to the United States of America, or would you rather have visa-free travel to Timor-Leste? Okay, I think probably most people would choose the United States of America, if not everybody. Okay, so what PACE has done is they've said, okay, not all visa-free destinations are created equal. Okay, visa-free travel to some destinations is more valuable than visa-free travel to other destinations. Okay, and they've come up with a formula to assign each destination a value depending on its desirability as a travel destination, whether you need or want to travel to that country. Okay, so what they've done is they've looked at a couple of things. They've looked at, first of all, GDP. Okay, they look at a country's GDP, not GDP per capita, okay, because that would mean Liechtenstein or maybe Luxembourg or something had the most valuable passports in the world. They look at total GDP because that sort of gives you a sense of how big or important or significant the country is globally. And they also look at the annual number of visitors per year. Okay, they look at those two factors and they've come up with a formula, and they use those numbers to assign each country in the world a points value as a travel destination. So not a points value as some place to live, but just as a points value as a travel destination. Okay, so in PACE's passport index, visa-free travel to the US or to China or to the EU is going to be a lot more valuable than visa-free travel to some smaller countries with a smaller GDP, countries that are less frequently visited. Okay, so
right. Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying again too that we're not, it's not a judgment on someone's country, like you were saying.
No.
It's not about the best place to live. It's more to do with where are a lot of people going and where are a lot of people doing business.
Yeah, some of the best places to live in the world have terrible passports. That's not their fault. It's not a reflection on the country. We're just talking about the passport as a tool for international travel. And, to me, it makes sense to weight countries, weight travel destinations, and give more points to travel destinations that are more frequently visited or more, I guess you'd say, important on a global scale. So what we've seen with PACE's passport index is that what we say triple threat passports. Okay, so some passports have sort of gravitated towards the top of the rankings, and the passports that tend to gravitate towards the top of the rankings are the passports that allow you to not travel to the most countries visa-free, but to travel to the most important or the most significant countries visa-free. So places like the United States, the EU, and China. And those triple threat passports, the ones that allow you to travel to the US, to the EU, and to China, those are the ones that have gravitated towards the top of the rankings. So Japan, Singapore, San Marino, Brunei, for example, South Korea, Canada, for example, on the PACE passport index is still one of the top passports in the world, but it's a little bit further down because we don't have visa-free travel to China. And just from my own experience, I do travel to China sometimes, and it would be great for me to have visa-free access to China or to Vietnam. And, every time I go to Vietnam, I got to apply for a visa. It's a little bit of a pain. So having that visa-free access is really, really key. So in my mind, I think PACE's index makes a lot of sense. I would describe it as an intelligent passport index because it looks at where you actually want to go. Okay, and it has come up with a formula, sort of what do you call that? What's the word? An
equation, perhaps?
An equation, I guess, to determine the value of each country as a travel destination.
So I guess the ultimate target here, though, of course, is, and why are we talking about it, is that people would want to have these passports because having these passports would give them that visa-free travel to these prime destinations.
Yeah.
But let's face it, there are some that you can get easier than others.
That's a really good point. And so I think that's really the value of these passports because, we didn't really have, this is something 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a passport index. They've started to spring up in the last 10, 20 years, sort of in conjunction with the rise of citizenship and residency by investment programs. Okay, so a lot of people now are considering obtaining citizenship or residency in another country by making an investment, usually. And people want to know, where should I invest? What country's passport should I target? So, like I said, if you have a passport that isn't very useful for travel, doesn't allow you to travel to a lot of countries visa-free, and you want to get a better passport, it's possible. Okay, there are a lot of countries now that have citizenship or residency by investment programs. Actually, that's one of the things I like about PACE's index. They actually have a separate sub-list of the best passports that you can obtain citizenship or residency in. So, like I said, Japan, #1 passport in the world. There's no option for you or me to obtain Japanese citizenship, unfortunately. So it's great for Japanese people, but it's not great for the rest of us. But there are a number of countries in Europe, countries in North America, countries like the United States has a great residency by investment program. It's not citizenship. So if you apply for the EB-5 program, your first step will to become a resident, get a green card. And then if you reside in the country for a few years, then you'll be eligible for citizenship. Other countries, you can apply for citizenship directly and get your passport very, very quickly. Okay, but those might not necessarily be the countries that you want to apply to or that you want to live in. But anyways, there's a variety of options, and we can help you explore those options and determine which one is the best option for you. So really, the Passport Index is just a reference tool for you to see what might be the best option for you, or what's the best passport. And if you see that there's a passport that looks fantastic, you can ask us, is there a way to get that passport? It might be easy, it might be difficult, it might be impossible. Come and ask us and we'll let you know. And there might be a path to citizenship or residency in that country. And, you might be able to take advantage of some really great passports out there.
Yeah, that's what I have up here. It's just a quick recap that it's a ranking of passports, not citizenship. And it talks about, or it gives you an idea of a passport you can get that'll take you where you want to go and where you want to do business. The residency by investment programs, difficulty scale there as well, because I know we have the index, but what about the level of difficulty? Is that taken into account?
Yeah, the passport index that PACE has created is just based on the GDP and the number of visitors they get every year. Okay, that's what they're looking at, and whether you can travel to that country visa free. They're not taking into account. So, like I said, Japan is #1, but Japan is probably one of the most difficult countries in the world to obtain citizenship in. Okay, so it's just looking at it's sort of provides one side of the equation when you're trying to determine where you would like to immigrate to. Okay, the passport is one angle, but the other angle, of course, is the thing that you're going to have to sit down and talk to us about. What are your goals? Okay, are you looking for someplace that's a tax haven? Are you looking to get a passport quickly so that you can facilitate travel? You spend a lot of time traveling to Europe or other countries and you want to be able to travel there more easily. Do you want to get a passport somewhere where you can retire? Do you want to get residency in a country where that has a good education system? You can put your kids in school there. There's a lot of considerations. That's the kind of thing that, unfortunately, our passport index doesn't take into account, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help you look at those options and try to find the best option for you.
Excellent. And where can they find this index online, Vince?
It's on our website. I think we'll probably provide the link in the show notes below.
Sure.
And yeah, just go ahead and take a look, explore around. Like I said, the way PACE is calculated makes a little bit of a difference. There are some countries that have really good passports that were maybe a little bit neglected under some of the other passport indices out there that kind of rise to the top in the PACE index. It's an interesting take. And, the other good thing is that, once you've explored the passport index and you have some questions, you can contact us directly and we're happy to talk to you about it.
Excellent. All right, Vince, thanks for this. The PACE Passport Index, as Vince was saying, we'll throw it in the show notes at the bottom. You can find it on the website at paceimmigration.com. Vince, thanks for taking the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John. Take care. Bye.